Every admiral knew the rule. A battleship in harbor was a fortress, since torpedoes needed deep water to run, and Taranto was shallow, netted, ringed with guns. The Italians believed it. The British had stopped believing it could keep anyone safe. It was night, the 11th of November, 1940. A ferry Swordfish, canvas, wire, open cockpit, dropped below the barrage balloon cables over the Mar Grande, while more than 800 anti-aircraft guns fired into the dark. How did a fabric biplane end up here? June 1940. Italy declares war, and overnight, the Mediterranean stops being a British lake. Every convoy running between Gibraltar, Malta, and Alexandria now crosses water the Regia Marina can contest whenever it chooses. That fleet in being is the problem. It does not have to sail to threaten anything. It only has to exist, sitting at anchor, forcing the Royal Navy to plan around it. Admiral Andrew Cunningham, Commander-in-Chief of the Mediterranean Fleet, wanted it neutralized, not shadowed, not contained, removed. The idea he reached for was not new. Back in 1935, during the Abyssinian crisis, Admiral William Fisher had sketched out a strike on Taranto. It went into a drawer. 5 years later, it was still there, and still the right plan. What it lacked was the instrument to fly it. That instrument arrived in September 1940, HMS Illustrious, an armored fleet carrier. Joining Cunningham's command, she brought Rear Admiral Lumley Lister. And Lister, this is the part that matters, had carried the 1935 Taranto plan with him. The paper and the aircraft were finally in the same ocean. You already know the aircraft, the Swordfish, the string bag obsolescent the day it entered service, and now handed the job of crippling a battle fleet. That was the instrument. And now, the plan. The target sat waiting. 6 Italian battleships riding at anchor in the Mar Grande. The Regia Marina's main fleet gathered in one harbor. A plan shelved since 1935 was about to be flown. But a plan on paper is not the same as aircraft over the target. And this one nearly failed before it ever launched. The raid nearly ended before an aircraft left the deck. In early November 1940, a fire broke out in a hangar aboard HMS Illustrious, petrol fumes and a single spark. And suddenly the strike aircraft were sitting inside a burning steel box. Crews fought it down and saved the aircraft. But the fleet was meant to sail with 2 carriers, and the second one didn't. HMS Eagle was the carrier the operation lost. Her aviation fuel system shaken apart by weeks of Italian bombing near misses. Weeks of near misses off Italy had cracked her fuel system, and she couldn't make the speed a launch demanded. She dropped out, and while some of her aircraft transferred to Illustrious, the rest stayed behind. One carrier would fly the whole thing now. Then there was the problem of the water. Taranto's anchorage is shallow enough that a standard torpedo, dropped from a Swordfish, would nose straight into the harbor mud and stop. The fix was crude and brilliant. Wire attachments were rigged so the torpedo would belly flop as it hit the surface, running level instead of diving. Modified shallow-running torpedoes, the technical key to the whole attack. The warheads got attention too. Magnetic duplex pistols were fitted to detonate not on contact, but beneath a battleship's hull, where the armor is thin and the water does the rest of the work. That was the theory. It had never been tried against a fleet. On the evening of 11th November 1940, 21 Swordfish launched in 2 waves, an hour apart, climbing through cloud under radio silence. No signals, no lights. Each pilot navigating alone. And the whole strike sat buried inside a much larger deception. Operation MB-8 was a convoy movement busy enough that nobody watching would guess a carrier had peeled off to hit Taranto. The aircraft were airborne and the torpedoes would run shallow. Everything now depended on the next 20 minutes over the Mar Grande. They came in low, below the barrage balloon cables strung across the Mar Grande, the Regia Marina's main fleet anchorage. The Swordfish dropped until the water was almost under their wheels. Fabric and wire, biplanes a decade out of date, threading between steel cables that could shear a wing clean off. Ahead of them, torpedo nets. This was the night of 11 to 12 November 1940. and the plan first drawn up in 1935 was finally being flown, the part no rehearsal could soften. More than 800 anti-aircraft guns opened up across the harbor. Here is the thing about a crowded anchorage. The Italian gunners could not fire freely. Their own battleships sat under the arc of fire. Depress a barrel too far and you put shells into your own hull. So the barrage went up and over, a ceiling of tracer, while the Swordfish came in beneath it, where the guns did not want to reach. Kenneth Williamson led the first wave in. Torrance Spence pressed home with the second. The sources do not resolve which pilot struck which ship, and I am not going to pretend otherwise. What the record holds is this: they flew straight down the throat of the barrage, held their line through the tracer, and did not turn away. Then the release. The modified torpedoes, the ones fitted to run shallow in an anchorage barely deep enough to float a battleship, dropped clean, ran true, and found their targets. 3 ships took hits at anchor, among them the battleships Littorio and Caio Duilio, and the Conte di Cavour, everything illustrious had carried across the Mediterranean, through a hangar fire and the loss of Eagle to boiler trouble. All of it came down to the few seconds those torpedoes were in the water. 2 Swordfish did not come out. The rest banked away, low over the harbor mouth, and turned for the open sea in the dark. The men in those cockpits knew they had hit something. They could not yet know how much. That would wait for first light. By first light on the 12th of November 1940, the arithmetic was in. 3 of the 6 battleships riding at anchor in the Mar Grande were on the harbor floor or settling toward it, crippled, and out of the war for months. Inside the harbor that night, the confusion was total. Italian cruisers reportedly opened fire on each other in the dark, unable to tell attacker from friend. There was nothing left to shoot at. The Swordfish were already gone. Now the tally. The Regia Marina's battle fleet strength halved in a single night. The cost to the fleet air arm was 2 aircraft. Remember the question I put to you at the start? Could 21 obsolete biplanes, fabric and wire, fly into the most heavily defended anchorage in the Mediterranean and come out again? 19 did. 2 did not. That is the answer, and it is a better one than anyone aboard Illustrious had dared expect. Then the overstatement began. In the press and popular telling, the raid had annihilated the Italian fleet, forever. It had not. 3 ships were down, not the fleet. 2 of them would be raised and repaired. Annihilation is a strong word for a night that left half the battleship still afloat. The arithmetic is astonishing, but what the night actually proved is more precise than the legend it became. Here is the popular reading. Taranto killed the battleship, and the Italians were simply incompetent. Both are wrong. The battleship survived Taranto by years, and the Regia Marina battle fleet was not beaten by contempt. It was beaten by a weapon nobody had used before. That is the distinction that matters. What the fleet air arm did that night was the first all-aircraft naval attack in history. The first fleet action in which the losing side never once sighted the ships that beat it. Cunningham's fleet stayed over the horizon. His aircrew did the work. The credit belongs to the men in the Swordfish, obsolescent fabric and wire, flying at night under 800 guns, and to the engineers who tuned a torpedo to run true in shallow mud. A plan first written in 1935, flown by hand. A year later, Japanese planners preparing Pearl Harbor studied it. They understood exactly what they were looking at. Thank you for watching. If this one held you, like it, subscribe and send it to someone who argues about air power. I'll see you next time on Ask Sable.